So Help for Domestic Workers, we are an organization that was established in 1989. And our mission is to empower migrant domestic workers to gain access to justice and fair and equal treatment in Hong Kong. And the way we do this is by working with both domestic workers and employers, because we really believe that sustainable change can't be achieved without engaging with both parties to the employment relationship. The reason Help was set up was 30 years ago, there was this barrister called James Collins, who was a member of the St. John's Cathedral. And when he used to come to the cathedral every Sunday, he noticed that there was this large congregation of domestic workers. And he would overhear, some of the conversations that they'd have. And they would have these basic questions about their rights in Hong Kong, how they could overcome some of the issues that they were having, what department to go to. And that's really where the organization started. So James Collins got together with a few other solicitors and barristers that were friends of his, and they would keep a table every Sunday and sit and provide assistance and advice to domestic workers about their rights. And that's where the organization started, and then we grew into the organization we are today. The organization actually is built on 3 pillars. So we have our advice and assistance pillar, which is really our crisis intervention, the response arm of the organization. This is where we work with domestic workers in crisis, victims of abuse, domestic workers who have questions, or employers who have questions about hiring a domestic worker, or having a good relationship with a domestic worker. Then we have our awareness and education pillar. This is the preventative work that we do, because it's not enough to just respond to crises. We really need to look at it to the future and make sure that the type of crisis that we see doesn't happen again and again. So we have education programs. We have education programs for domestic workers, teaching them about their rights, teaching them about how to navigate Hong Kong, to navigate the different legal questions that they may have. We also have education programs for employers, where we work with them in identifying some of the common pitfalls that they could have while having a domestic worker. Things like how do you pay annual leave, or how do you provide them 1 month notice? What is the legal requirement there? Things like that. And then our third pillar is really our empowerment pillar, where we try to give future skills to both the communities so that they can have a really good experience in Hong Kong. So one of our main programs under that is providing mental health support. And that's really something that is important, especially when it comes to access to justice, because where we have, say, a domestic worker who's suffered sexual harassment or abuse, they're really not in a place to go through the legal process, to go through a civil case or a criminal case, because they're not mentally stable, they're not feeling confident. So that's where the idea for providing mental health support and access to mental health support came, because access to justice has to be, all of these things working together and making sure that they have good solutions. So I joined Help in 2019, so around 3 years ago. And my experience with Help, I think, started long before I actually joined Help. I had heard of the work that Help has been doing. And when I first came to Hong Kong, I was trained as a paralegal under the Help volunteer training program. And so when I joined Help, I really had a lot of admiration for the work that's done by the caseworkers, the staff who have to work with domestic workers and support them through very, very difficult times. And that's really been kind of what has driven me in working with the organization and supporting the organization to grow a lot more. With my work, I think it's such a rewarding experience working with Help, because yes, we see really difficult cases. We see cases of domestic workers who have been trafficked to Hong Kong, who suffer forced labor conditions, who have difficult situations. But we also see, domestic workers sometimes, having that opportunity to feel confident for the first time since coming to Hong Kong. And it's such a rewarding experience, especially for me. Like, we would see domestic workers who start the labor tribunal proceeding very, very beaten down and thinking, I'm not important, I'm not going to get my entitlements. But by the end of it, they're able to go to the court, they're able to speak to the adjudicator and feel very confident. And whatever the settlement at the end of the day, that confidence really helps them then go to their next job and work with their employer. So that for me is what's emblematic of all of HELP's work. It's that support that we provide them to have long-term solutions, equitable solutions, and have better relationships. I think for us, our core program is really our helpline program. And that's something that I think every person who's listening to this or watching this will really resonate with. The helpline program is our one-on-one advice and assistance program for domestic workers. And this has been our core program for the last 30 years, but it's also the most important. And I think that's something we've really seen with the pandemic. For example, in 2019, we supported around 700 domestic workers through our one-on-one advice, but by 2021, we supported 1,400. So there was a 53% increase in clients, and that really shows the need of the community to get the one-on-one advice. And the questions can range from very, very simple issues like, for example, my employer is leaving Hong Kong, how do I have a conversation about getting my entitlements, and how do I make sure that I can apply for a new visa application? Or it can range to something very, very extreme, like a domestic worker who has suffered physical abuse and has to go to a police station. How do they make those complaints? How do they act as a witness for the trial? So that is the program that I'm most proud of within the organization. And I think that really makes the biggest difference in the domestic workers' lives, because when they come to us, they're very, very confused about what they can be doing. It's a scary process. I think as lawyers, while we are very comfortable in the courts, it's still a very intimidating place where everybody's wearing black and the judge looks very, very intimidating and everything is done in English or Chinese. So the helpline really provides that support and holds their hands and is with them until the end and until they're able to find their feet, whether it's going back to their home country, whether it's finding a new job, or whether it's doing something else. And so for me, that's the biggest and the most important program. Very, very excited about the Legal Walk. I think this is something that really is bringing the legal community together, and I'm excited that it's happening for the first time. And HELP is one of the first organizations to be picked to be the group of beneficiaries this year. And it really means a lot to us because a lot of the work that HELP does is supported by solicitors and barristers, lawyers, like people who are listening to this video. We have a team of 3 case managers, but as I said, we deal with around 120 new cases every month. And the only way we can do that is by a roster of around 60 volunteers who support us every day. They support us in drafting submissions, they support us in drafting letters, helping the client go to court, things like that. So I'm very excited, and the fact that we can then now join with the legal community and make sure that HELP is able to survive into the coming years and continue the support that we're able to provide the community. I think that really makes me happy. I think my first message is really gratitude. We are very grateful for all the support that all the participants in this legal walk will be giving the organization and are continuing to give the organization. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this message know that providing one-on-one support to people who are going through legal issues is a very resource and time-intensive thing. It's not something that you can do in an hour. It's not something that you can do in a day. It's a journey that you take with the person. You start from the time you file a case to the time the case ends, which can be from a couple of months to a year or 2. And so I think the gratitude that I have for everybody for recognizing the importance of supporting organizations like us, and the fact that everybody wants to support us and make sure that the work that we do is making a change in everybody's life. I think that's the biggest message. And yeah, just asking for your support, and hope that you will also have fun with the legal work.